Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare
सरस्वती गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय, नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद से अद्वैत गदाधर शिवास आदि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गौ गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरिवर्धन की जय, वृंदावन धाम की जय, नवद्वीप धाम की जय, स्वामी तो भक्तवृंद की जय, गंगा माई की जय, जमुना माई की जय, तुलसी देवी की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, स्वामी तो भक्तवृंद की जय। All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Haribo. Sahadeva Prabhu. Unmute your mic, please. Your mic is muted. Unmute yourself.
Sorry.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
You are welcome for today's class.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, please, we can start.
All right. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamine Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Shritatmane Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tatitanamine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshacharini Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Dayamudirayet Nashtaprayashu Abhadrishu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhaktivedanta Sloke Bhakti Bhayavatina Ishtiki. Hare Krishna. So today's Srimad Bhagavatam class is taken from Canto 1, Chapter 7, text number 32. This is a son of Drona punished as Ashwatthama. So I'll read the Sanskrit words. Prajo Pradavam Alakshya Lokya Vyati Karam Chatam Matam Cha Vasudevasya Sanjaharjano Dwayam Prajopadravam Alakshya Lokya Vyati Karam Chatam Matam Chava Sudevasya Sanjaharjano Dwayam Prajopadravam Alakshya Lokya Vyati Karam Chatam Matam Chava Sudevasya Sanjaharjano Dwayam. Synonyms: Praja, the people in general. Upadravam, disturbance. Alakshya, haven't seen it. Loka, the planets. Vyatikaram, destruction. Cha, also. Tam, that. Matam cha, and the opinion. Vasudevasya, of Vasudev, Shri Krishna. Sanjahara, retracted. Arjuna, Arjun. Dwayam, both the weapons. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thus, seeing the disturbance of the general populace and the imminent destruction of the planets, Arjuna at once retracted both Brahmastra weapons as Lord Sri Krishna desired. Thus, seeing the disturbance of the general populace and the imminent destruction of the planets, Arjuna at once retracted both Brahmastra weapons as Lord Sri Krishna desired. Purport: the theory that the modern atomic bomb explosions can annihilate the world is a childish imagination. First of all, the atomic energy is not powerful enough to destroy the world. And secondly, ultimately, it all rests on the supreme will of the Supreme Lord. Because without his will, all sanction, because without his will or sanction, nothing can be built up or destroyed. It is foolish also to think that natural laws are ultimately powerful. Material nature's law works under the direction of the Lord as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. The Lord says there that natural laws work under his supervision. The world can be destroyed only by the will of the Lord and not by the whims of tiny politicians. I'll repeat that. The world can be destroyed only by the will of the Lord and not by the whims of tiny politicians. Lord Sri Krishna desired that the weapons released by both Draupadi and Arjuna be withdrawn, and it was carried out by Arjuna at once. Similarly, there are many agents of the all-powerful Lord, and by his will only can one execute what he desires. Om Ajana Timarandasya Jan Jana Shalakaya Chakshur Anmelitam Yena Tasman Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakatamayam Tadati Swaparantikam. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namoshate. Vanchakalpataribhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swaminiti Namine Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Shritatmani Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Namine. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Shatarini. Shri Krishna, Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. I welcome you all to today's Srimad Bhagavatam discuss. Most of us are not qualified to speak on the transcendental topics of the scriptures, but it's a service we've been privileged to perform. And by performing such services, we may, just maybe, we may be pleasing the Lord and his associates. And by so doing, we may be allowed into the pastimes of the Lord. So this is a continuation of Ashwatthama, the son of Drona, being punished. Dronacharya was a teacher to both the Kauravas and the Yadavas and the Pandavas. Both the Kauravas and the Pandavas. Dronacharya actually was born a Brahmin and was trained as a Brahmin as well as a Kshatriya. So as he was growing up, he was really poor. I mean, even if we go back to when he was really young, he was a friend to Drupada. And Drupada became a king, but he did not become a king. He remained poor, economic-wise. So, because he had been trained both as a Brahmin and a Kshatriya, when he was really overwhelmed with poverty, he decided he's going to try to move to the city, which is Hastinapur, and look for a job. So when he got to Hastinapur, he saw some young boys standing around a well. And so he got closer and asked them what was the problem. And the little boys, who happened to be the Kauravas and the Pandavas, playing and found their ball they were playing with fall into the well, and they couldn't figure out how to get the ball out of the well. So Drona, being a Brahmin and a Kshatriya, had learned the science of the military art also. So he said, that is just a little problem. That's nothing. So he took off his ring, threw it in the well, and then he just picked a few couple straws of grasses, and then he threw one grass into the well, one by one. The first grass went into the well and then hit the ball. The second one went and then hit the straw. So in this way, all the different straws of grasses he was throwing formed a rope. He held it and then pulled the ball out. So the boys were all amazed. He says, wow, who is this person? Well, we can take you to our parents. So they took Drona to their parents, and the parents said, well, I am going to ask you to train my children. So Drona was the acharya for both the Kauravas and the Pandavas. So Ashwatthama, being the son of Drona, was also trained by Drona. So when we read the scriptures, it's so beautiful. When you read the scriptures, you read the stories, but oftentimes with Arjun fighting the son of his guru. And the son of his guru was a friend. And like a brother, they all grew up together. And so for Ashwatthama to secretly go into the camp of the Pandavas and kill all the 5 sons of the Pandavas was something very, very treacherous and painful. So there is a description how when the news was sent to Yudhishthira that all your 5 sons have been killed, and they couldn't figure out at the time who had committed such heinous crime. Of course, eventually they were able to figure out who it was. That was Ashwatthama. And he was running away because he knew that he could be killed by Arjun. So while he was running and Bhima was chasing after him, Arjun was chasing after him, he realized that there is no way for him to escape. So he decided to release a weapon that his father Drona had given him. And when Drona gave him the weapon, he told him that this weapon should never be used unnecessarily because it's so powerful that it could destroy the entire planet. And so Drona had given the same weapon to his favorite disciple, Arjun. This Drona was so powerful to the point that there was a time that somebody approached him to become his disciple. And he said, no, you're not fit to become my disciple. Because Drona, when he started taking discipleship, started taking students, he was only taking students from the affluent people. If you are not a rich person, son, if you are not like a king's son, you're not accepted into his school. So Arjun had also been given this mantra. So well, when Ashwatthama realized that there is no way he's going to escape, the only way for him to protect himself is to release this weapon, which is called Brahmastra. But Arjun also had the same weapon. But unfortunately for Ashwatthama, he only knew the science of creating this weapon and making it work, but he didn't know how to retract it. So in that sense, it has been said that incomplete knowledge can be very dangerous. And that is why it is very important as devotees, when we study the scriptures, when we study the teachings under the tutelage of the spiritual master, we should be humble enough and inquisitive enough to understand everything that needs to be understood. Because if we do not understand the knowledge as it should, then there is the tendency of creating havoc. Like in the case of Ashwatthama, he knew how to release, but he didn't know how to retract. So when he released, and Arjun was really perplexed because he didn't know exactly what was going on. I mean, the description is that the heat is so powerful. Usually when we say Brahmastra, Brahmastra is just like a missile, and there are different types of missiles. Now, in the 1945, when we had the First World War, scientists came up with so many ideas and steps to enhance the weaponry. And so that was when they started manufacturing atomic bombs. And the first atomic bomb these scientists created was called a little boy, because it was made from uranium. I mean, if we've been following the news, Iran is so much rich in uranium, and as such, US is very much afraid of uranium because they know that with such amount of uranium, they could be producing atomic bombs. And weapon in the hands of an untrained person can be very dangerous. People who get angered easily, pleased easily, Asutosh, like Lord Shiva is called. Lord Shiva is called Asutosh because he can easily be pleased and easily be angered. And when I read about this Lord Shiva having this quality Asutosh, and there is one patient I used to have some time ago, and this person, I always saw this Asutosh nature in her because this person had bipolar. And the next moment, he is mad with you, he's insulting you. The next moment, he's the most friendliest person ever. So she flips very easily. And that is one nature of Asutosh, which is Lord Shiva's nature. So back to Ashwatthama. Ashwatthama, when he learned this science, he didn't know how to retract. So after killing the 5 sons and he was running away, when he released this weapon, Arjun also had it, but he didn't understand what it was because he had never used it before. And because he had never used it before, he didn't know what it was. But he could understand that the world is about to end. And so he said, he prayed to Lord Krishna. And I remember, I think it was Jayadvaita Maharaj who spoke on that particular verse, where Arjun started praying to Krishna. And I remember asking him a question. If I personally were to be faced in such a situation, I do not understand, or I do not see how I could be offering such glorifications to Krishna before asking him what to do. I'm in the midst of being vanquished. And instead of asking the Lord how to protect me, Arjuna started glorifying Krishna. You know, then after the glorification, he asked, what do we do? What do I do? Then Krishna, being pleased with Arjuna's prayers, told him what to do. I have personally, and I do not want to impose my personal views and approach to anyone, but I am quite hesitant to praying because if I have to pray, I'm going to be praying for basically my material needs. I have so much material needs. And I might not be praying as good as Arjun, who attained perfection in prayers, which is one of the 9 processes of devotional service. Nevertheless, we are encouraged to pray. I mean, I pray from time to time, but I'm not like a very serious prayerful person. But prayer is divided into 4 groups. There is a scripture in the Christian Bible called Acts, A-C-T-S, Acts, which was written by Paul. And that is what stands for prayers. When you're praying, you have to follow these acts, ACTS, and they are arranged in chronological order in terms of importance. So A stands for adoration, glorification, adore. And then C stands for confession. And then T stands for thanksgiving. And then S stands for supplication. So asking for God to give you this, give you that is the last thing one should ever pray for. The most important prayer is adoration, glorification. And so we see, even in the Bible, when Christ was asked, when we have to pray to the Lord, how do we pray? And he taught them the Lord's Prayer. And the first line is, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. So that is glorification, adoration. So that's exactly what Arjun was doing. He was glorifying the Lord. And after glorification, then he asked him, well, you are my supreme Lord. You are my Lord and Savior. I'm in this situation. What do I do? Then Krishna told him, yes, you are an expert in the sciences. You know what to do. Just release your weapon. This is coming from Drawini. Drawini is another name of Ashwatthama. Drawini means the son of Drona. So Krishna told Arjun, this has been released by Ashwatthama, but he doesn't know how to retract it. So release your weapon. And when Arjun also released his Brahmastra, and the two collided, because Krishna told Arjun that the only way you can stop this problem is you releasing your weapon, and when your weapon clashes with Ashwatthama's weapon, that is the only time you can retract it. Because when they clash and they connect, then they become one, and then you'll be able to retract it. And so Arjun just did that. But when Arjun did that and saw the heat, the immense heat, it is described that the heat is so strong, so powerful that it's indescribable. The atomic bomb, the first one the scientists created, manufactured, like I was saying, was called Little Boy, which was made out of uranium. And then they manufactured a second one, which was in 41, 42, in the peak of the World War. And that was made from plutonium, which is much, much stronger and more powerful. So that is called a fat boy. So we have a little boy and a fat boy. But even if you combine this little boy, fat boy, or you combine millions of these fat boys together, these fat boys cannot destroy this Earth planet alone. It cannot. And so Srila Prabhupada was explaining in the purport that these scientists, even though they've been doing so many amazing things, just like I am here, wherever you are, I've seen you, you've seen me, I'm hearing you, you're hearing me. They've shrunken the world, and we are almost together at all the time. Yet there is so much that these material scientists are not aware of, because we read from this same chapter where Srila Prabhupada was explaining that even these subtle sciences are all material. Just like Krishna explains that all material beings are created by my 8 segregated material energies. 5 gross, 3 subtle. So these material energies, whether they are gross or subtle, they are still material. They are subordinate. And scientists do not even fully understand this gross body, because even this body I have, this material body I have, scientists are still studying. Like so many years ago, maybe like 40, 50 years ago, maybe in a population of, let's say, 1,000, they may have like maybe just one doctor. And when you go see this doctor, that doctor takes care of everything about you. In today's world, we have so many doctors to like maybe just 300, 400 people. Yet we have so much diseases. And we have uh, a specialist that is expert in eyes. And even with eyes, we have different opticians, optometrists. We have those who are expert in eye infection. We have those who are specialists in those who have glaucoma. The same eye. We have so many different divisions. So what to speak of the heart? What to speak of the lungs? So this single body, scientists still don't understand it very well. So what to speak of the subtle sciences? Then what to speak of the spiritual sciences? So Srila Prabhupada emphatically says in the paper that it is foolish and childish for these scientists to think that with their atomic bomb they can destroy the world. The only thing they could do is to destroy few or little portions of this world, but not the entire world. But when Ashwatthama released his weapon, all the denizens in all the three worlds could feel the heat. Those in the heavens, those on earth, and those in hell, they could all feel the heat. That is the amazing power of these subtle sciences. Sometimes you read these events that took place, and because they go beyond our comprehension, all we say is, this is myth, it's mythology. But it's not mythology, it's real. Just like scientists have been able to discover Dwaraka, and they've been able to prove, because scientists can pick a stone and study the stone, and the stone will be able to give them how old the stone has been. And so there are different eras just by studying the stone. Like they have Precambrian era, they have like a Paleozoic era, Mesozoic era. Like if you study geography, if you study anthropology, they have all these, and they date them millions of years back, which actually conforms with ISKCON teachings or the Vedic teachings. No, so the scientists are, they're trying their best, but they still fall short. Sometimes some unfortunate people who misunderstand, misquote Srila Prabhupada as like lambasting the scientists, that Srila Prabhupada had no respect for the scientists. No, Srila Prabhupada had so much respect for the scientists. The only reason Srila Prabhupada was against the scientists was the scientists trying to claim that with their material sciences, they can prove the existence of God. But we cannot prove the existence of God with our material knowledge and material science. After all, Srila Prabhupada, when we read Srila Prabhupada's morning walk, the morning walks came about because a doctor, a physician, advised Srila Prabhupada that you're an old man, you're always sitting here chanting. One way you could help yourself is to get up and walk in the mornings. And he followed that. So Srila Prabhupada honored, but he was very much heavy against scientists who were claiming that with their tiny brain, they could explain and understand God, Krishna, which is impossible. in that way. So when Krishna told Arjuna, and Arjuna released his weapon, and his weapon clashed with Ashwatthama's, that was the only time Arjuna could retract and calm the situation. Of course, Ashwatthama was eventually killed. And it's very interesting because when Draupadi was informed of her children being slaughtered, she wept bitterly. Like again, we read the scriptures, it says, Draupadi's 5 children were all killed. But just put yourself in the position of Draupadi, and you have your 5 children sleeping. If they were on the battlefield and they lost their lives, it's a different story because they had etiquette, they had rules and principles guiding war and fight. And they went against the rules and the ethics. When these boys were asleep, Ashwatthama sneaked and then went and beheaded them. So, in the first place, he went against the ethics of war. So he needs to be punished. In fact, Arjuna, being a devotee, even pleaded with Krishna. He says, no, I do not have to kill him. Draupadi, when she was first informed of the massacre of her children, she wept and she cried. She said, I needed that crazy person to be killed. And eventually, when Ashwatthama was caught and arrested and was brought before Draupadi, what did Draupadi say? Draupadi said, no, I cannot see you kill him. Why? Because my 5 children have been killed and I am in serious, serious pain. And if you kill Ashwatthama, his father is dead, Drona is dead, but his mother is still alive. And if you kill him, the pain I'm having now, his mother is going to have the same pain. And I do not want his mother to have the same pain. This is the heart of a devotee. This is the heart of a devotee. A devotee is willing to endure whatever pain that he may have to go through, that he tries his best to help avoid pains that others may have to have. And so we see in the line of Vaishnava Sampradaya, so many great saints who prayed that they carry on the sins of everybody else. Let everybody go back home, back to Godhead, and let me go to hell. And Bhaktivinoda Maharaj was praying the same way. He was praying to Srila Prabhupada and Krishna that whatever pain, whatever troubles that people are going through, especially devotees of ISKCON are going through, may all those suffering come upon him and every devotee be freed to perform their devotional service. I very well remember one time I had gone to visit Bhaktivinoda Maharaj in his institute house, and he encouraged me to pray a similar prayer. And with all humility and respect, I said, Great Dev, please, I can't pray like that. We have to be sincere to ourselves and with ourselves. We have to pray according to our level of spiritual growth. Mother Kunti prayed to Krishna, let these calamities come upon me again and again and again and again. Because each and every time we have these calamities, that is when we are able to think of you. Mother Kunti prayed like that because she had witnessed so many instances where she was put in a very dire situation that under no circumstance should she come out of such situations. But Krishna got her out. So she was praying based on experience and realization. If you do not have such experience and realization, I do not think it's necessary to pray like that. But we still have to pray to Krishna. And praying to Krishna based on our level, and as we grow, our prayers will change based on our growth. Like in English, we said, cut your coat according to your size, you know? So Srila Prabhupada is saying that material scientists think they can destroy the world with their atomic bomb. But he says no, because material nature is working under the direction of the Supreme Lord. Sri Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita chapter 9, text 10, that this material nature is a machine and it is working under my direction. So we cannot control material nature. For instance, there is a state here in the United States called Texas. They don't usually experience winter. They don't usually experience snowstorm. And for whatever reason, this year, they had a very serious snowstorm. They couldn't stop the snow. They couldn't stop the ice. They had like 5 or 6 days electricity out. So everything was frozen. People's houses broken. You see the ceiling fan filled with icicles. We couldn't stop it. If there is hurricane, we can only tell that there is hurricane coming. We cannot stop it. So who are we? Do we think that we can destroy the world? We cannot even manipulate material nature. And on top of that, Srila Prabhupada is explaining the purport that just as Krishna is saying that even material nature, whom you think you can manipulate, is working under my direction, under Krishna's direction. And when Krishna directs material nature to move left, she moves left. When she is asked to move right, she moves right. And above all this, it is all based on Krishna's will. Krishna has time to create and has time to destroy. And until he destroys, nobody else can destroy. You know, I have some Christian friends who tell me, "Oh, Jarvis, you know, we are in the end times. You know, the world is almost ending. If you see all these bad things happening." I said, well, in one sense, it's true that we are in the end times because we are in the 4th cycle of the 4 cycle of every epoch, which is the golden, the silver, the bronze, and the iron, the Kali. Now, even though we are in Kali Yuga, but we know we have 432,000 years, and we've only spent like 5,500 years. So we still have like 427,000 years to go. And out of these 427 years, there is a golden era within this, which is 10,000 years. And the 10,000 years has already begun. And some of us don't actually realize that we are enjoying this Satya Yuga within this Kali Yuga because the life we're living now is so wonderful, it's so beautiful, that even those who lived in Satya Yuga couldn't even experience this. Those who lived in Satya Yuga, I mean, you have to practice spirituality to attain some perfection in order for you to travel from one place to another within few minutes. In today's world, you do not need to practice anything. All you need is to have your passport, your visa, and your money to buy a ticket. You get on the airplane within hours. You are on a different continent. Like I'm sitting here, I'm talking to you. Wherever you are in the entire world, we're talking. So we should understand that Lord Chaitanya's golden age, we are already experiencing it. And after the 10,000 years, the full blown of Kali Yuga is going to raise its ugly head. And I was describing a little bit about the characteristics of this Kali Yuga. And they say, oh, really? I said, yes. In some few years to come, when people come to live and hear how we lived our lives, in today's world, we think we are suffering. They would wish that I wish I was living in their time. So we have the opportunity to make the progress we needed to make to realize Krishna, and we do not have to take it for granted. We have everything available to us. We have all the scriptures, like I have my tablet. I have all the books I need in the palm of my hand. So why do I become so lazy reading the scriptures? Prior to this, I will have to carry, like if you read, if you know the volumes of Bhagavatam, if you have the hard copy of the Bhagavatam, it's from one world to another. And if you had to travel from one continent to another and you wanted to go with your books, that means you have to carry a whole trunk load. But now you have it in the palm of your hand. So somehow Lord Chaitanya's mercy has simplified everything for us to realize Krishna. And we do not have to become lazy. Hare Krishna. I will end here and see if we have questions, we have comments, contributions. Everything is welcomed. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu, for your class. Anybody has question, can you raise up your hand? We ask. So, Prabhu, my first question is on the Brahmastra. I do not know how to retrieve, where Aswatthama does not know how to retrieve the Brahmastra. So the issue is, why did Arjuna also have Brahmastra and he allowed his wife Draupadi go through hell? Why didn't he just use it to remove Duryodhana once and for all? And they waited all those years, their house was burnt, their mother passed through hell. Why were they tolerated? When he said devotee can be violent when another devotee is being attacked or insulted, why did they allow other devotees to be insulted and attacked and they did nothing?
Well, Krishna Prabhu, thank you. That's a very great question. It's a very important question. And I'm happy you asked such a question. The difference between Arjuna, who is a self-realized soul, and somebody like me is that he follows instructions. Because like I was saying, his military guru, Drona, when he gave him the weapon, he told him and he warned him that do not release this weapon unnecessarily. And if you release this weapon, it could destroy the entire world because it's Lord Brahma's weapon. And Lord Brahma is in charge of all the three worlds. So when you release you're going to cause havoc. And because he was told that, he didn't actually use it. That is the more reason why, even though the devas are so powerful, but they oftentimes, if not always, get defeated by the demons whenever they fought. Because the devas, even though they know the sciences, they know what they can do to counteract whatever situations they are going through, but they just don't do it. They just depend on God, which sometimes may seem silly that you have the means of helping yourself, yet you do not use that to help yourself. You're just waiting on somebody to tell you what to do. And that is their perfection, because they always wait on the Lord. They always depend on the Lord. And Krishna says, those who depend on me, I relieve them of all sinful reactions. I relieve them of whatever calamities that they will have to go through. Because if one uses his own powers, our powers are limited. You could do something, but you may be hampered at some point. But if you wait on the Lord and the Lord asks you to do something and you do it, there is no way you're going to be exhausted at any point, because it is the Lord who is urging you to do that. And if you become unsuccessful, that will mean that the Lord is unsuccessful. And there is nowhere ever we read that the Lord was defeated or was unsuccessful. And that is why Arjun didn't release the weapon. And because Ashwatthama released the weapon against the instructions of his guru, he had to suffer. When Arjun did not release the weapon, contradicting the instructions of his guru, he didn't suffer. So that is a very good lesson for us to learn, that it is very, very important for us to follow the instructions of our superiors. And that reminds me of how sometimes a superior, an authority, can make life very miserable for the subordinates, because when this authority starts becoming partial, like liking this person and not liking that person based on certain motives, then it becomes difficult for the subordinate to depend, rely, and follow the advice of the authority. I remember, I think it was you who asked, Kusha Prabhu, who asked Giriraj Maharaj a similar question, that it's very important that as an authority, you try to be very transparent, because it behooves the subordinate to take instructions of the superior to heart, to the letter. Like whatever the spiritual master says, you have to comply. You don't ask questions. Actually, that is part of the reason why we have the neck bead. The neck bead is like the collar of a dog. We're a dog. We just go by wherever our master takes us. But when life becomes somehow political, then it becomes difficult for the subordinate to follow the orders. And so it's very important question that you asked. And I hope my answer attempts to answer your question. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Any other question?
I'm
Comment?
looking at the screen. Yeah, question from Ganga Prashad. Ganga, please unmute.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Sri Ganga Prasad Ki Jai, Hare Krishna.
Dandava Pranam. Thank you very much for the very, very scholastic, informative class.
Oh, Prabhu. I like your literature English, Prabhu.
You were navigating from science to technology to medicine, then back to philosophy. Thank you very much. Yeah, I just needed a little bit of input from you. In course of your lecture, it was just a passive statement, although Ashutama was killed. So I don't know if you remember saying that, but I would have wanted that you buttress it.
Yes. Okay. I don't really remember exactly what I was saying, but I think I was saying that when Ashwatthama was eventually caught up with the Pandavas, when the Pandavas eventually caught him, and they wanted to kill him, so they brought him to Draupadi, and it was the same Draupadi who had told the Pandavas that they need to catch this person and kill him. But when they caught him and brought him before Draupadi, because she has this motherly affection, she said, "No, I do not want you to kill him because I am mourning, I am grieving for the loss of my 5 children. And I do not want to see Ashwatthama's mother go through the same pain as I am going through. So I do not want you to kill him." But of course, Krishna said, "No, you have to kill him. Uh, if someone, according to ethics, the military science, if someone causes such heinous crime, the best way to relieve him of his sins is to kill him." And so, based on the instructions of Krishna, the Pandavas killed Ashwatthama. And actually, I think it was Bhima who personally killed Ashwatthama, because Bhima was so furious that he said, "I will kill this person, chop off his head, and then offer his head to you, Draupadi. You stand on his head, and then you take shower. You cleanse yourself of all the grief you've been going through since the death of your children." And so they did that. So from the perspective of Draupadi, it's very interesting also because we have to show our human part. We are humans. If somebody says or does something that causes us to be angry, we have to display the anger. But quickly after that, we should also try to stay back and then try to put the teachings into reality and application. So Draupadi, being a human, felt that if somebody has killed my children, I have to get him killed. You know, sorry, I have to kill him. But she also felt that no, uh, that is not really nice because I do not want uh, the mother of Ashwatthama to go through the pain I'm going through. So yes, both aspects are there where Draupadi wanted him killed and at the same time they didn't want him killed. But of course, eventually Ashwatthama was killed. Krishna told Arjuna that Ashwatthama has a special gem, and the only way you can kill him is to first be able to get that gem off his head. And they were able to do that. And after that, they were able to kill him. I'm not sure if I've been able to answer your question satisfactorily. Ganga Prasad Prabhu.
The ending is the interesting part, and I wanted you to expand on that. Ashotama was not actually killed. What Krishna said in Gita, for one who is honored, dishonor is what worse than death.
Okay.
Jayadratha was treated the same way. Ashotama was treated the same way. Not that their life was terminated. Ashotama was humiliated. They shaved his head. They removed the gem on him, and they just kicked him out. He was not physically killed. Ashotama is still alive till now, and he's going to live for 432,000 years. That is the whole duration of Kali Yuga. And after that, he will become the next Vyasadeva. That's what we had in course of the lecture. And so I just needed that. Yes, he was killed. He was killed in the sense that he was dishonored, but not that his life was brought to an end, because it was like a test for Arjun. Krishna was actually testing Arjun to see his level of compassion and his level of commitment to duty. Arjun was in a dilemma. Draupadi didn't want him killed. Krishna said kill. Arjun has a duty. So, but in the end, he just followed the middle path. Dishonor him, which is as good as killing him, and releasing him. Because Draupadi said he doesn't want the mother to mourn like her. So these are the storyline. And that when you said kill, I accept he was killed, but it was Arjun who did the laceration of the gem from his head, and it was one who pushed him out also. And not that he was physically killed.
Well, thank you so much, Ganga Prashad. Well, you are absolutely right that there are different types of killing, but what I said may seem like physically, but like Ganga Prashad Prabhu is saying, for one who is honored, dishonor is worse than death. So he was humiliated, which in one sense is actually worse than physical killing. So Arjun, Bhima, in fact, Yudhishthira himself didn't want him killed. Arjun didn't want him killed. But they were following the orders of Krishna. So when Krishna told Arjun to kill him, Arjun was ready to kill him. When Arjun was not even prepared to release his weapon, and Krishna told him to release his weapon, he released the weapon. So like going back to Krishna Prabhu's question, it's very important that we follow the instructions of our superiors, like I said earlier on. If we follow the instructions of the superiors, then there is very slim chance to no chance of we going wrong, going astray. Like the Devas, they have so much power to do many things, but they do not do anything on their own accord. They just wait on the Supreme Lord. And based on the Supreme Lord's instructions, they do what they are being told to do. So Ashwatthama was not physically killed, as Ganga Prashad Prabhu helped expound on it, but to him, he would have preferred being killed and taken out of the body than the way he was killed in the form of humiliation. So Ganga Prashad, thank you very much for expanding on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhu. This is what we are here for.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Our next question is from George Amega. He said, in the presence of Krishna, there were demons. Now we are chanting the Maha Mantra, which is not different from Krishna. So my question is, does the Maha Mantra serve as a deliverer, or it can serve as a weapon also?
Well, the Maha Mantra is a deliverer and it's a weapon also. It's both. Again, when Draupadi was being disrobed in the assembly hall of so many great personalities by the Kauravas, headed by Duryodhana, Draupadi cried. I mean, initially she was trying to fight it, just as we all do. When you've been attacked, you try to fight it, to defend yourself. And if it gets to a point that you'll not be able to defend yourself, then you depend on Krishna. You call on Krishna. So when Draupadi was being disrobed, she tried to fight it because she wanted to keep her privacy together, but she couldn't. And she cried on the Lord, and the Lord released unlimited saris. So after everything, Lord Krishna visited Draupadi, and Draupadi asked Krishna, says, "Why are you visiting me?" Now, Draupadi had a very special relationship with Krishna because Draupadi actually wanted to marry Krishna, but Krishna didn't. So Draupadi had so much love and affection for Krishna. And when Draupadi accused Krishna for not being present while being attacked, Krishna said, "What are you talking about? I was there." So Draupadi says, "How were you there? I didn't see you." He says, "I was there. How did you get all those unlimited saris?" So it is said that when it comes to just protection, the holy name of Krishna alone is sufficient. Because Draupadi just chanted, called on the name of Krishna, and she was protected. And again, there have been so many instances where Srila Prabhupada and his disciples visited many places where the place was haunted by evil spirits. And all Srila Prabhupada asked the disciples to do was to chant the Maha Mantra, and the Maha Mantra was able to dispel whatever negativity that was there. So both things are there and capable to be carried out by the holy names of the Lord, the Maha Mantra. And so then the question is, why does Krishna come? If his holy name is able to deliver anybody and everybody, he only comes solely to give pleasure to his devotees. All the other reasons for which he comes can be attained without him being here personally. But he comes here personally just to give his personal association with his devotees. So yes, the holy name can serve as a deliverer and as weapon at the same time. Hare Krishna. I don't know if that
Thank you,
is
Prabhu.
a satisfactory answer to Amiga's question, George.
Yeah, I think it's okay. But no more question in the platform. Any question? If not, we round off the class. It's like we have great souls here. Everybody have realized the truth.
Yeah, Prabhu, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
We ask all the devotees to kindly
Good to hear your voice.
Can I use the name? Yeah, Prabhu, thank you very much for your answer.
You're welcome.
So,
I have a question.
Okay, my question is, since someone is also speaking.
Just go on. After
Please, can I go ahead? Okay. So my question here is, can we use it against someone? Not Krishna himself necessarily applying it, but me personally, can I use the holy name against someone? That is what I'm confused about.
Oh, okay, I get the question.
In the case of Draupadi, it's Krishna himself that decided to come and rescue her at that time. So a situation whereby I'm in an emergency, can I use it directly against someone? And moreover, you said also you have to act according to instruction. And sometimes we have emergency situations. In our world as a devotees, we have our spiritual masters to be our guidance today. If I am in emergency, I need to talk to my spiritual master. He is not around at that material moment. What do I supposed to do? Because I try my best to reach him, nowhere can I reach him, no senior devotee or nobody confidential to talk to. So at that material moment, it's an emergency situation. What do I supposed to do then? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, George. That's a very important question. Just like we just read, we saw how Ashwatthama released the weapon, and because he did not have a complete knowledge, he was struggling, he was suffering. And that is why it is very important that as disciples, we humbly and eagerly learn from the lotus feet of the spiritual master. Because when we learn and we know what to do, we do not wait for a situation to come before we try to look for solutions. We know the solutions, and that is why it is said that in ISKCON, in Hare Krishna movement, we have more answers than questions. In all other schools of thought, they have more questions than answers. But in ISKCON, we have more answers than questions. In other words, we have so much in-depth knowledge to the point that if we have sufficiently learned under the lotus feet of the spiritual master, we can understand and know when to use what. But in rare situations, when we get baffled, then we have to consult with our superiors. But in most instances, we should be able to know what to do. If we do not know what to do, it means we are not learning. And that is why it's very important that we learn. We always have to listen. We always have to hear from the self-realized souls. Because by hearing from the self-realized souls, we will be arming ourselves as to what to do in times of need. So your question was if one can use the Maha Mantra to protect himself. Yes, we can use the Maha Mantra. If I remember, there was a time, I would say it was, there were many times we went on Harinams. And in Ghana and in West Africa, or in Africa in general, there is so much superstitious beliefs. When people see Hare Krishnas, the way they are dressed, they think they are mystical people. And so they try to see how strong we are mystically, spiritually. And so there was one time we had gone out on Harinam, and we went to one town. They were having a yearly festival, and they do, they're fetish people. They dress pretty much like Hare Krishna devotees, you know. They even carry danda, but instead of 3 dandi, they carry just 1 eka dandi. Some of them actually live shika, just like devotees do. And so they were performing their annual festival rituals. And devotees, we like to be in environments like that because there are many people that we can reach at the same time. So we were there playing kirtan, and all of a sudden, we saw one fetish priestess, a lady, come into our arena and started dancing with us. But while she was dancing, she was performing some antics, psychic antics, to make some of the devotees fall. And they understand that when any of us fall, that proves that we are not mystically strong, we are not mystically powerful. So while she was doing that, I was leading the kirtan. And usually the person leading the kirtan is thought of to be the leader. So this lady came dancing right in front of me. And she was making so many antics, like trying to push me without touching me. And I understood what she was doing. So I switched from the Maha Mantra to Nishri Mahadev prayers. And eventually she couldn't do whatever she was trying to do. And the whole crowd started shouting, hee, because they realized that we are so strong, she couldn't defeat us. And why couldn't she defeat us? Because we were chanting the mantra. But we were not chanting the mantra to harm or to hurt her. We were chanting the mantra to arm ourselves. It's an armor. To arm ourselves to such a point that if somebody is throwing something against us, it cannot get through us. So the Maha Mantra and the holy names of the Lord has that power to ward off all negativities from us. But we do not use the mantra to harm or to hurt anybody. We don't do that. And the Maha Mantra doesn't even do that. All the Maha Mantra or the holy names of the Lord does is that it bars and prevents the attacker from attacking the devotees of the Lord. Hare Krishna. I think I saw Richakra Prabhu has a question or comment.
I have a question.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
I have a question.
Go on, Prabhu.
Okay. About the about the question of listening to our superiors. Doesn't it have like a clause to it? Because I remember that Bhishma Dev disobeyed the instruction of his guru Parasuram to get married to Amba. So under what conditions do we have to always listen to our superiors? Because I know if somebody is your superior, and I mean personally, I think the only time that you have to always listen to the superior is when the superior is actually living up to his what do we call it? Living up to his or her expectations. But other than that, if the superior is like being biased and the superior is doing stuff, I mean, that doesn't, I mean, conform with the spiritual ethics. How then do we have to always listen to our superior? So that's my question. My question is that, does it have a clause to it, or is just mandatory that whatever it is, we must always listen to our superior?
Well, thank you very much, Richakra Prabhu. That's a question I would have preferred to be in your position to ask. I would have preferred that I'm asking this question to somebody like yourself or Ganga Prashad. But here I am, I have to answer. Well, my little understanding is that somebody is superior, somebody is in authority because he lives up to the expectation of that position that he occupies. If that person is not living up to the status of the position he's acquiring, then it's only in the name of the position, but he is not actually an authority. Because if someone is, let's say, a temporal president, and he has factions amongst the devotees he is presiding over, and becomes biased, then it makes it difficult for the faction that this particular temporal president doesn't support to give him the utmost respect. I mean, we are human beings. We are human beings. We are living entities, spiritual beings encased in these material bodies. And because we are in these material bodies, like beautiful thing Giriraj Maharaj said 3 days ago when he spoke to us, he said, Srila Prabhupada said that being a spiritualist does not mean that you go against the laws of material nature. So the fact that we're trying to practice spiritual life does not mean that we do not have to use our mind to think. So we sometimes refuse to use our mind, not fail. We refuse to use our mind to think because we know that this statement coming from this person is for our own good. So we don't even think about it, we just do it. But when we come to know that this person has been very inimical consciously to us, then it makes it difficult for us to just accept whatever they are telling us. That is why I said in the course of my lecture that it behooves authorities and the leadership to live up to the expectation. Because if leaders do not live up to the expectation, then it makes it very difficult for the subordinates to follow orders and instructions. And that is the problem we have in ISKCON in general, because there has been this issue raised recently about Guru says this, Guru says that, Guru says this. Especially like I'm speaking for myself and I'm speaking like Bhaktivedanta Maharaj. Bhaktivedanta Maharaj put so much faith in his leaders to the point that whenever he comes to your zone, he listens to the information given to him to the leadership, through the leadership. And if the leadership is feeding him wrong information, he believes in the leadership. I mean, he can find out from whomever, but he had so much faith in the leadership, which is a very amazing quality, that you delegate people and you give them the authority to run as expected. But sometimes when the leadership become like political, taking sides, then this has caused so much confusion. Like, for instance, personally, this is my opinion. The reason why we have a temporal president is that we want that person running as the president to make sure that the temple is being run efficiently. If that temple president is running the temple efficiently, then it doesn't matter how long that person is been in that temple. If that temple president has been in that temple for 40 years, 50 years, 100 years, and the temple is running as expected, why do we have to move such a president? Except if you move the president, you're moving him to another place to go and start the same strength and energy as established in the previous temple. And whoever you bring in is going to be able to follow suit what the then temple president was doing. But merely saying that this person has been the president in this temple for this number of years, and so he has to go. If that is just the only criteria, to me, that doesn't really help, because all we're trying to do is to make sure that the temple is being run efficiently. And if the person is running the temple efficiently, then what is the problem? But in the past, and I believe as it is today, sometimes we say, oh, this temple president has been president for so and so years, he has to leave. That shouldn't be the criteria. So yes, Harichakra Prabhu, your question is very important. When the authority is not living up to the expectation, then he fails to remain an authority. And he fails to remain authority, then you should not expect your instructions to be carried out as expected. That is my understanding. Is Ganga Prashad Prabhu there? I would want Ganga Prashad Prabhu to give a little contribution to my answer. I'm begging you to give in a contribution, Ganga Prashad Prabhu, if you're still there. I don't think he's there.
Okay, while we wait for Ganga Prashad, I have a question based on what you just said now.
Okay.
Prabhu. If the temple president is like very good in the temple, like you said, doesn't matter how long, they can remain there. As a movement, what if the temple president is a grihasta, has children, and the children think that the temple is their father's house, and they grow up, and the temple president might have left the body or is still alive? How does the children know the temple is not their father's property? Did he tell the children? Because one day the movement will want them to move out of the temple. How does this work? Because many temples are occupied by grihastas for many 20, 30, 40 years. And the children were born inside the building. And to my understanding, no man will tell the children, I'm not the owner of this house. So this may be the reason ISKCON used to move temple presidents to detach them, for the children also to know it's not their father's house, it's a movement. So can you comment on this?
Well, thank you. That's also a very important question. That is a very simple thing to resolve in the sense that, if the temple is registered in the name of the movement, it's in documents, it's on file that this temple belongs to ISKCON. And so it's just like in the Christian world, in the Islamic world, they also have cathedrals, they have chapels, they have mosques where they have priests, they have imams heading, but they all know that they do not own the building, because a place of worship is never owned by an individual person. It's owned by the church, it's owned by the organization. So that is a very simple thing for anybody to understand. But most importantly, if the temple is registered and it's in file that, it's on file that this is ISKCON's temple, then how can any individual claim ownership, no matter how long that individual person has been living there? Whether it's a grihasta or it's a brahmachari, that doesn't really matter, because if even the parents do not tell the children that we do not own this house, at some point the children, by sense of common sense, would come to understand that this is a place of worship. It is not our parents, and it's registered in the name of the organization. So that is very simple. If, and again, if the temple or place of worship is registered in the name of the movement. But moving, or say removing a president from one temple to another simply because of how long he's been in that particular temple, to me, it doesn't really help, because probably the temple president knows best how to run the place at that particular time. That if you do not, at least, let me say this, in the corporate world, when somebody is a leader in a particular field, and they have somebody else coming in to take the position of that particular person, they do not just move that person. That person lives on, and the new person coming in studies under him for some weeks or for months. And when the person becomes really equipped to handling the position, then the old person moves on. So there wouldn't be a vacuum. But I know in ISKCON, most of the time, they just move the president instantly, and the new president coming in doesn't even have any inkling as to how the old president ran the place. Then it makes it more difficult for this new president to run the place, because he's coming in new, he doesn't really know what's going on. So if even we have to move the president from one place to another. I think, and this is my own little mind, I think that if we keep the president there for a few weeks or a month or whatever, for the new president to study under him how he has been running the place, then it will make a very smooth transition. And it will not even cause any ill feeling of the old president being moved to the new president that have just been kicked out of this place. That is my little approach to this issue.
Okay, as a grihasta with family, we are supposed to provide for our children.
Yes.
And leave inheritance. If I am a temple president and all my children are born in the temple for many years, have I left inheritance for my children?
Yes, there is so many things one can consider inheritance. Inheritance means you gaining something from me. It doesn't necessarily have to be something you can grossly lay hands on. Like in the Brahminical culture, where they live like a life of material abject poverty, they live inheritance, but the inheritance is in the form of knowledge. It's not in the form of houses and industries. If you are a Brahmin, what you have, what you own is knowledge. And so that is what you want to leave with your descendants. If you are a Kshatriya, you study military art. So that is what you want to leave with your dependents, with your descendants. If you're very rich, you have castles, you have empires, that is what you want to leave with your dependents. So it depends on what you have and what you're going to leave with your children. And so, as Brahmins, what we primarily own is knowledge. And so, when we want to leave inheritance to our dependents, then it's in the form of knowledge. It shouldn't necessarily be in the form of houses because we are grihastas. I mean, if we can do that, wonderful. But the most important thing is knowledge, because first and foremost is we are devotees first. Everything else is secondary. That is my understanding, my humble understanding.
You just quoted Giriraj Swami when he said being a devotee does not mean we are what?
That we go against the laws of material nature.
Part of the laws of material nature is that a man who is married should provide a building for his children. A grihasta means one who owns a house, not who maintains a temple. I was expecting you to encourage grihastas who are managing the temples to think of their families, because tomorrow the movement will kick the children out of the management, out of the properties. Where will they go to? That's my question. We should be practical.
Yes, that is very practical. I mean, well, thank you for bringing this up, because it is very important. See, it is very important that we understand that the most important thing in whatever we do is spiritual practice. The material acquisition are just auxiliaries. They are things to help us practice our spiritual life. There are some people, if they do not have certain material needs, practicing spirituality will be very difficult for them. I mean, I'm trying to practice spiritual life. I am a grihasta. I am married with children. And so, yes, I am trying to establish something for my dependents to a point where they will not be in need of a place to lay their head. Because if you have no place to lay your head, if you have no food to eat, all you will be worried about is how to eat, how to eat. You will not even be able to concentrate on how to serve God. But there are some people who don't care. So it's very individualistic. But generally, it helps if grihastas can do something to make their dependents feel at home and feel that we are not desperately in need of this or that, whatever little thing we have. I remember there are some people who may earn, let's say, $100,000 a year. And that $100,000 a year is sufficient for them because of the way they live their lives. And there are some people, they may earn $500,000 in a year and still will not be sufficient for them because of the way they live their lives. So it all depends. But generally, as grihastas, especially in devotional service, it's very helpful. It's very helpful. Now, I'm using this word in a very, very sensitive manner. It's very helpful that we create an atmosphere where our dependents will not be in need of this or that. But it is very important that we instill in our children the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, the teachings of the Vedic principles. Because when we know and we are sufficiently equipped with the spiritual teachings, that spiritual teachings will help us guide and survive our material needs. But if we do not have spiritual knowledge, then it's going to be very difficult to even live peacefully in the material sense. So yes, Kusha Prabhu, your question is very important. That as grihastas, we also think of how we can care for our dependents materially. But even more than that is to instill in the spiritual practices in them, because when they have the spiritual practices embedded in them, then from there on, they can know how to fish without touching water. They can know how to live in this material world, but not of this material world.
Our question is from Ganga Kavikanapu. That's a question.
Yes, it's just a little contribution to what the question Prabhu, Kusha Prabhu asked, and in the reply of His Grace Sahadeva Prabhu. Yeah, that is just like what Sahadeva Prabhu said. Yes, it's very individualistic. And in that, the approach to what Kusha Prabhu said, and my own contribution would be like, the thing that is here is that Krishna is not taking care of everyone. So whatever we are trying or doing materially, we are just doing, we are trying. Is Krishna who really gives success? Yes. Okay, we have to work hard, we have to struggle, it's okay. But if Krishna doesn't give success, also you don't become successful. So like what Sahadeva Prabhu said, yes, we should be spiritually grounded first. And you see, if we are thinking about, if we are talking about, oh, the Grihasta managing the temple, they have to take care of themselves, they have to do, we are trying to encourage them not to be faithful to Krishna. And the first principle of spirituality is to be faithful to Krishna, because tomorrow, Krishna is the one who wants tomorrow. We don't know tomorrow. We don't even know what is going to happen in the next few hours. So our own duty is to just be faithful and be strict and fixed on Krishna. Krishna will guide us on how to move our path in the material world. Sometimes we may plan for tomorrow and tomorrow never comes. So now that you know today is Krishna, we should hold on to that Krishna and forget about every other thing, because Krishna is the only real thing. Every other thing is unreal, no matter how we think it's real in the material world. Even though we speak about this philosophy every day, still we don't understand it. Krishna is the only real thing in the material world. Every other thing is illusion. At the end of the day, we are going to leave everything. So let us be faithful to Krishna today and hold on to whatever Krishna is giving us to do in devotional service, like, okay, managing the temple. Let them focus on Krishna, managing the temple, not keep whatever way they can manage according to them, whether they manage it like a Shivananda Sena or they manage it like Vasudeva Datta, who spend everything for Krishna. Let Krishna is the one going to take care of tomorrow. So that is my own contribution. I don't know. Sorry, Prabhu. Just to support whatever you're saying.
Well, Kavi Konapura Prabhu, thank you very much for your contribution. I mean, whatever you said just affirms what I was saying and what Kusha Prabhu was also trying to cut across. Because in one sense, sometimes spiritual life is a bit difficult. That is why we need to really submissively study under the tutelage of the self-realized, because some devotees could say that everything depends on Krishna, and sometimes that makes certain devotees lazy. And sometimes when a devotee understands that even though everything depends on Krishna, but I still have to work as if everything depends on my own effort. And so it is said that when Mother Yashoda was trying to tie Lord Krishna to the wooden grinding mortar, she was always short by 2 inches of a rope. And that 2 inches of a rope signifies two things. That one, it requires our effort. And then the second one is Lord Krishna's mercy. So both have to be there. We have to put in the effort, and then we leave the results to Krishna. But if we do not put in the effort and expecting the results, then that is also very dangerous. So as grihastas in particular, we should try to do something for our daily upkeep and leave the results to Krishna. Krishna is the ultimate provider. He is the ultimate judge. But when some of us begin to think that Krishna is the doer, who am I? There is nothing really I can do, and end up not doing anything, looking up to Krishna, that wouldn't work. Like Krishna explains that when Krishna explained to Arjuna everything about Krishna, the Bhagavad Gita says, now you know, do as you want. You know? So Krishna actually told Arjuna, says, I am the source of everything, and even me, I'm not idle. I'm always doing something. So we always have to do something. And if we're doing something, we leave the results to Krishna. So thank you for your contribution, Kavi Kondapura Prabhu. I see Keshava Prabhu.
Thank Prabhu. Keshava Prabhu has a question. Keshava, please unmute.
Okay, Hare Krishna. First of all, I'd like to apologize for coming in late on the class. I had to meet with somebody. I'm sorry. But maybe my comment is coming from only having heard one side of the story. So if it's inappropriate, I apologize. But I'm just speaking from what I know of personal experience based on what I've seen in Canada and the US. There are many devotees who joined, when they were young, and they were very zealous, very enthusiastic. They had that missionary spirit, and they went out. At the same time, they also wanted to raise a family. So they raised a family. And the institutional speech at the time, the institutional mantra was, don't worry, Prabhu, Krishna will take care of you. Well, he does take care of them, but maybe not necessarily in this life, because I've seen a lot of children who grew up in the movement, whose parents were initiated personally by Prabhupada, and they want nothing to do with ISKCON, because in many cases, they grew up in poverty, not knowing where their next meal was coming from. They're being shunted from this temple to that temple under immature management. And, they lost faith in Krishna and Prabhupada because they say, Krishna says he takes care, he provides carries what we have, and preserves what we have, carries what we lack. And many of these children to this day, they don't believe that. And we can see how there's so many lawsuits that were going on. The Turley case, for one, where $400 million was awarded to these children who were brought up in dysfunctional boarding schools. And then if we look at classic examples, a lot of the temples in Canada that I know of, the Toronto temple being a classic case, is run by Indian devotees, the younger generation who was born in Canada. So they do everything according to North American standards, but they still have that upbringing being born in the family of devotees. So not only are they good parents, they're also good devotees, and they can support the temple, they can support themselves, and they can make provisions for their children's future. And because the children feel that they have a secure material future, they are able to continue with their studies, and while they're young, support the temple, and they know that when they're engaged, they have a well-paying job, that they will be able to support the temple. So they win on both levels, materially and spiritually. And then you look at somebody like Bhakti Vasudeva Maharaj, who personally told me in Mayapur, when he has somebody who comes to him and says, Maharaj, they want to take shelter for spiritual guidance, his primary stipulation is, I will help you on the condition that you are making provisions for your material life. And Bhakti Damana Maharaj said one should not enter into household life. They're a householder. That means you're holding a house. So if you don't own a property and you don't have money, don't even entertain the possibility of getting married. So I think ISKCON has made some horrible mistakes in the past, and we're paying for it now, as evidenced by the fact that the younger generation is very uncommitted to helping this movement. They've seen what their parents went through, and they saw that the institution never really came to assistance of these devotees. Nowadays in ISKCON, if anybody has problems with their teeth, if they need new shoes or something like this, they're told to depend on Krishna. Now, the Christian church, when a pastor or a priest or whoever he is retires at the age of 65, he's got a pension plan, he's got a place to live, and he has no more material worries. All he has to do is play bingo and checkers and chess with his fellow priests. Completely mundane, but the point is they feel cared for, so they can make a lifetime commitment to the church, knowing very well that they will be cared for at the age of retirement. In ISKCON, nobody can say this. And this is something that Jayadvaita Maharaj said years ago, off the record. He said, we've had so many court cases against ISKCON, and this will probably be the new case. Many people coming forward and saying, 70 years of age, I gave 50 or 60 years of my life to this society. Now I'm in a crisis. Now I'm in need. Who's there for me? Why do we have these appeals on GoFundMe to help a devotee for this or for that? It's a disgrace and it's shameful, and it sends a message to the world at large that we can't take care of our members. We can't take care of our members because there was little emphasis upon the development of the children, materially and spiritually. Sorry.
Well, thank you, Prabhuji. I accept and I agree to everything you just narrated, because I have the same stance on what you just described. And it's quite unfortunate. I mean, it is a fact that as devotees, we just depend on Krishna. But depending on Krishna does not mean that we do nothing. And that is what some of us get it wrong. For instance, we have so many different people come to speak on this lustrous platform. And everybody, as expected, speaks from their viewpoint of how they understand the philosophy, how they practice it, and they want others to understand and practice the way they understand and practice. But sometimes we have to step back and analyze things to see how the general populace is experiencing and going through. I remember a vivid story about Bhaktivedanta Maharaj when he was with the Madhura party. They were doing Maha book distribution. And he used to live such an austere life, eating once a day, like maybe just 2 fingers of banana and little peanuts. And he would get out and do everything to distribute so many books. But he didn't realize that his actions were putting the other devotees into a whole lot of dilemma, because the other devotees were unable to do as he was doing. And so they all felt that they were not doing as much. And they became demoralized. And so later on, he understood, he realized that, no, my actions are not helping the rest of the devotees. So he slowed down a little bit. And with that, all of them worked in harmony and served Srila Prabhupada's movement. All I'm trying to say is that it is a fact that Krishna is the ultimate provider. But that does not mean that we do not play our role. Like I said, Mother Yashoda running short of 2 inches of rope to tie Krishna signifies two things: our effort and then Lord Krishna's mercy. So we make the step, and then the result is left up to Krishna. Like somebody was saying, if you are preaching, how many devotees have you made? We have the ability to preach, but we do not have the ability to make devotees. Only Krishna makes devotees. So our duty is to preach. Making devotees is up to Krishna. When we sufficiently preach and there are no devotees coming, it does not mean that we are not preaching. We are preaching. But the fact that Krishna is the ultimate doer does not mean that we do nothing. We have to do something and then leave the rest to Krishna. Sri Sanatana Goswami was very rich. He had so much wealth. He had so much money. But at some point, he dumped all his gold coins. He says, I don't need this anymore. And he decided to live a life of mendicant. That was an option that he opted for. If you and me are looking for money, we're not going to throw away the little that we've found or earned. We're going to try to accumulate more. And so, again, ISKCON as an organization, I believe we are learning from our mistakes because we've committed lots of mistakes. And I believe, I'm only believing that we're learning from our mistakes, that in the past, we didn't fully understand the import of Krishna is the ultimate doer. And as such, we were not doing our part and seeing Krishna do his part. We put all the play on Krishna. We wanted Krishna to become the doer and also being the fulfiller. But we have to act, and then Krishna fulfills. But if we do not act, you do not expect Krishna to fulfill. For example, we have this very rich guy. The name comes and goes, but he is the founder of Omaha. He's like Bill Gates. He's very rich, and in his what do I say? The name comes and goes. I'm sorry. He has so much wealth that his descendants will never be poor. But he has not put any of his children in his documents that after his death, they take possession of everything he owns. Just like Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada established ISKCON. There was so much money coming in. None of his children were on the ISKCON property that they owned it. Despite the fact that I am your father, I have all these temples, I have all these assets, you have to work on your own. And so we have to try to work on our own to try to establish something for our dependents. But we also have to understand that we working on whatever we're doing in itself does not guarantee us success. The success depends on Krishna. But again, we have to act. That in the past, we did not act. We only depended on Krishna, which was wrong. So thank you for your contribution, Keshava Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Next question from Saraswati.
Hare Krishna. My mom.
Hare Krishna, Saraswati Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
My mom, she's at work right now, but she wanted to share a note she took yesterday when she was listening to a lecture by Bhakti Tirtha Swami. He said that love has no price tag. It is not a business arrangement or a contract with escape clues for difficult circumstances. We cannot approach the Lord in the mood of bargaining. We should not begin our meditations and our prayers with a long shopping list. Prayer of this nature is not based on unmotivated, unconditional love and does not help us develop the higher consciousness necessary to make us whole. We do not have to remind God of our needs. The more we accept the fact that our lives are always under God's control, the more we understand the true prayer means thy will be done. When we can sincerely offer such a prayer, we become more integrated beings. So she says she can share the lecture if anyone needs it, but she wanted to share that note with everyone.
Well, Saraswati, thank you for sharing that via Mother Atma Devidasi. That is thy will be done is a very powerful prayer, which I never pray like that. Bhaktivinoda Maharaj is encouraging us to pray like that, but I don't pray like that. Others may pray like that. I do not pray to Krishna that your will be done. I'm sorry, because I don't know Krishna's plans. Maybe Krishna's plans is that in order for me to become a serious devotee, I have to lose everything I own. My wife has to be killed in a car accident. I have to lose all my children. And that is the only way I can become a very serious devotee. And at my present situation, if that happens to be the case, I will not become a devotee. So I do not pray to Krishna that I will be done. But it's a working process. I know and I am understanding that the ultimate is that a devotee prays to Krishna that it will be done. But I'm not there yet. So actually, Bhaktivinoda Maharaj asked me to pray exactly the way you read. And I told him emphatically, I said, Maharaj, please, I can't pray like that. I was sincere to him. I said, no, I can't pray like that, and I wouldn't pray like that. So we have to be practical. I'm not on that pedestal yet. I'm not there yet. So like I said, if the will of the Lord is that I lose this, I lose a limb, I want to be able to play mridanga. And Krishna's will is that, no, you have to lose your limb. I said, my goodness, no, I don't want to lose my limb. So that is an ideal thing we are looking up to. But until we get there, we don't have to jump. Srila Prabhupada oftentimes emphasizes that do not jump, go step by step. And if we try to go step by step, fortunately and luckily, hopefully, we will come to that level. But we should have that in mind, that that is what we are aspiring to become. But until we get there, we don't have to jump to get there.
Thank you, Prabhu, for wonderful class. 2 hours. Time up.
Time up.
Prabhu, Kusha, just one last one.
Okay, we will have 2 more questions. Kavakanapu and Har Chakra. Kavakanapu, please. Then we'll go to Har Chakra.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank Keshava Prabhu for that detailed explanation about what has gone wrong and what is going on in ISKCON and all these things. So one thing I would like to say and ask here is that our philosophy is Achintya Beda Beda Tattva, simultaneously one and different. If you want the story of somebody who fully depends on Krishna, like Shiva Thakur, he was a Grihastha. Chaitanya Prabhu asked him, you are a Grihastha? The Supreme Lord himself said, you are a Grihastha. Shivas, go and work and take care of your family. And Shiva said, no, I will not go and work, my Lord. And I will not go and work. He said, then take science. He said, no, I'm not going to take science. The devotee is telling the Lord, I'm not going to take science. Then the Lord said, how are you going to maintain your family? He said that if I wait 3 days, I don't see food, and I clap my hand, no food, then I will go and drown myself in Ganga. And the Lord was so pleased. And he said, Shivas, even though when one day come in the future, Lakshmi run out of Lakshmi, money, because Lakshmi is the one in charge of money, but if one day comes that he has to run out of Lakshmi, I will personally take care of your family. This is example of somebody who fully depends on Krishna, and Krishna is ready to take care of the future for the person. Now we have the case, we have the situation of our President Achaya, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhaktivinoda Thakur did not, although he's a very elevated devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also and Krishna, but he did not follow that process. He was a magistrate that even the British could not depart from him. Anytime he wants, tell them that they want to resign, they will say, please, what do you want? Okay, we will relocate you to where you want to go. So he was a devotee and at the same time working. So what I'm trying to say is that I think we should analyze this to newcomers that, see, our philosophy is Achintya Beda Beda Tattva. You decide which way you want to follow. Do you want to follow the same percent of depending on Krishna like His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj is saying? Because that is the ultimate goal. Okay, if you are not on that level yet, there's another way of working seriously and also thinking of Krishna to support. So we have to make it very clear to devotees. We have to make it very clear to devotees so that they can understand that there is these two paths. We can decide which one we want to follow. It's our process. The both is our process. If you depend so Krishna, so depend so strongly, Krishna will not leave you alone. But if our faith is not there yet, then we have to follow the one of two rope, two shots. You work hard, then Krishna supports you. This is my own Krishna.
Well, Hare Krishna, Kavi Kanapura Prabhu, thank you so much. Well, yeah, it's true. We have Achintya Beda Abeda Tattva simultaneously. So we have to be sincere with ourselves. If we are somebody, I mean, there are some of us that naturally live a very simple life. They don't care if they have just 2 kurtas, 1 pants, they're still okay with it. There are some of us who can't live like that. I cannot live having just 2 kurtas and 1 pants. And if I have 10 or 20 kurtas, that shouldn't also make me become a puffed up person. So, but to make it like take it or leave it, it's very wrong. It's either you take this or you are doomed. That used to be our way of life some time ago, because some time ago, if you brahmachari become a grihastha, the notion is that you are doomed. You are good for nothing. You know, so people didn't want to become grihasthas. People will have to hide and do whatever they want to do. But in today's ISKCON, by Guru Krishna's grace, that is slowly and gradually fading out. So yes, we have to let people understand that there are 2 paths you can take, and whichever path you take, you still have to depend on Krishna. I think last question, Harichakra Prabhu.
It's just a little contribution that I wanted to chip in here.
It's past 2 hours.
Yeah, what I'm thinking is that we are missing 2 things together. We are missing spiritual life with management. Being managers is different from being spiritualists. We have some people who are really good, I mean, they are real good devotees, but they are not good managers. But we are always thinking that once somebody is a spiritual person, automatically the person will be a good manager. It doesn't work like that. Then why would Prabhupada establish BBT and all those things? If somebody is good at managing, you give him the opportunity to manage. And if you are very inclined, if you are spiritually elevated, you give that person your support for the person to manage. But what I'm realizing is that we are trying to merge the 2 things together. Oh, this is a good devotee. We see him chanting his rounds. We see him this, so automatically he should become a manager. It doesn't work like that. He can be a very, I mean, what do we call it? A failure, complete failure, because he doesn't know anything about management. Give the opportunity. If even you are the oldest devotee in the temple and you have been chanting for thousands, or if even a young boy knows management. You give that young boy the opportunity to manage, and you support the person. But that idea of I've been here too long, I'm a senior devotee, and this is killing us. In the initial stages, we were doing pioneering work, and the pioneering work there a lot of things that we did that we didn't realize was not the right way to do. Like in the initial stages, anybody comes to the temple, and the first thing we tell the person is that abandon everything. Don't even go to your family. Forget about your family. Just stay here. You should be here in this. You see, I never did that. I always went back to home. And because of that, my mom gave me every opportunity. At a certain point in time, my mom, she gave his whole house for us to use the house as a temple. So what I'm saying is that we shouldn't merge, what we call it, management with things. Like myself, now I do business. The business I do, my duty is to supply the temple flowers for free. But anytime the temple puts in a special order, I let them pay. I tell them when it comes to business, we do business. When it comes to spiritual life, we do spiritual life. We don't merge the two. I'm a businessman. When it comes to business, we do the business. Period. I mean, we have to be realistic with ourselves. We don't have to merge two things. Mostly we merge two things. And that is what is killing us. If you are doing business and devotees come, you can give some discount, but they have to pay. If time comes that you have to give your donation out of your heart, oh, Prabhu, this one is my donation to the temple. Yeah, that is all right. That is perfect. But when they come to do any business transaction with you, you do the business transaction. We should forget about this management thing and trying to merge management and spiritual life together. It doesn't work together. I mean, look at devotees doing Harinam, like Divarishi. Divarishi is doing all these food for life programs in this thing. If he sits down and say, I'm only chanting Hare Krishna in the temple, and he doesn't do personal contact, people who can support him, give him some help so that he can buy the foodstuffs and cook and do this thing, and he sits in the house. Where do you think Krishna is going to shower the foodstuffs from the sky to him? He has given us the intelligence to act. And the more we act on his behalf, then he will push us. Look at our children. If you have your child going to school and you say the child will have to go to school at like 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. and you say, because I want to train my child in spiritual life, you wake the child at 3 a.m. to go and chant his rounds, and he goes to classroom and starts sleeping. That is poor management. That is poor householder life. Let the child sleep. Shri Krishna Pad, anytime we want to travel, the driver who will drive the devotees, he tells the driver, don't come for Mangarati. Sleep. Get enough rest so that you can safely drive the devotees to their destination. Common sense. This is common sense. It has not got nothing to do with spiritual life. Common sense. And that is what we should learn how to do. Apply our common sense. Spiritual life doesn't mean we don't have to apply our common sense. We don't have to choose people who can manage things. If my daughter can manage my house better than me, why don't I give her the chance to do that? Simply because I'm the father, and even though I'm poor in management, and I'm seeing this quality in my daughter, that my daughter can perfectly manage the house better than me, why don't I give her the chance? So we have to think twice. Now we are, all of us, we are not children anymore. We are all grown-ups. We are in our 60s. We are going to die very soon. It's hard time that we give the little ones the opportunity and give them our backing, help them. Now, if it comes to computer thing, I was here fumbling with this computer thing for so many minutes. I couldn't even know what to do with it. But let me call in one of these kids, and in 2 seconds, they will let everything happen on the computer. we have to give them the opportunity, give the little ones the opportunity, and let's back them up. And they can help us solve put our movement in a solid ground, rather than all these old minds. Our old intelligent minds, we are always trying to impose it on the little ones. We don't even give them the opportunity to do what they need to do. It's time that we wake up. We are not kids anymore. We should stop pointing fingers that the authorities do. Now we are the authorities. We should act now and give our children the opportunity to do the right thing, and stop all that spirit trying to make spiritual life with the basic management stuff and all that stuff.
Thank you. Thank you,
Prabhu, for your wonderful comments, contribution.
Thank you very much.
We ask everybody to kindly unmute yourselves. The Hare Krishna to Prabhu for coming.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare
Thank you very much.
King Pusha.